Okay, here we are, folks. We are back on the Troy, Malcolm and Adrian Bow podcast, episode 104. And it's great to see you, Troy. Looking fantastic as always. How you going, buddy?
Really well, thanks, Adrian. How are you?
Outstanding, mate. Absolutely outstanding, which is a great nexus into the topic of today, which is all about headspace, all about mindset, and all about energy. And let me tell you, these are three topics for us which are so critical in our coaching, in our day-to-day lives, and really the foundation of the entire industry. I mean, I often advocate, as you know, Troy, that 70% of real estate is got to do with headspace, mindset, energy, process, and discipline. And the other 30 or 20% is often to do with product knowledge and negotiation skills. A lot of people are very surprised by that configuration, but you and I know it to be true.
Yeah, and we touched on it last week when the question came in from Karen and Steve. We spoke about the daily ritual and daily habits. We've kind of taken that up a level, and we're going to really break down what headspace do you have to be in to have that kind of positivity and action items. What energy do you need to bring to the table? And by the way, Adrian, is there different energies that you bring throughout the day? And then the final part of that is, what's the mindset? What's the mindset of someone that's potentially riding the real estate roller coaster, potentially had a few things not go against them, potentially had a few vendors say, oh, listen, we're not ready. We're ready to sell, but just not yet because we're seeing the current climate and we don't think it's the best time. So we're going to touch on those today, but headspace, Adrian, is something that you're exactly right. We talk about a lot in our coaching, and if we collated all of those together, I think it's very clear that to be a fantastic and successful real estate agent, you need to have a strong headspace. You need to know when there's peaks and troughs, and need to know how to have that balance, and also manage your expectations of yourself, your team, and also the business and your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I really loved about what you said there, Troy, was managing your expectations, because, we are here today to relieve anyone who's listening to this of the guilt that you always have to be organized, always have to be structured, and always think that every minute, every day has to be going on point and to plan. Well, I'm here to let you out of the guilt, because what we're suggesting is 80% of real estate on a fluid daily basis is what we call reactive, which is dealing with inquiries, dealing with vendor reports, dealing with offers, dealing with negotiations, dealing with presenting offers, dealing with inquiries. So that is 80% of it. Now, if you could have 20% of your day, which is structured, which really should involve your morning ritual and your proactive prospecting. Really, if you do that as your big rocks for the day, to use Dr. Fred language, then relieve yourself from the guilt that the rest of the day has to go to plan. Because welcome to real estate. It took me 15, 20 years. And now I just get up every day and think, you know what, this is a fluid industry. It's a fluid day. And I know I'm going to be in reaction mode for most of it. And now I'm cool with that. I'm absolutely come to terms with it. But there's certain non-negotiables, Troy, as you know, which is the morning ritual to make sure that I'm tuning into that business channel. And the other thing is that, whether you call it 10 calls before 10 o'clock, whether you call it 2 45-minute prospecting sprints, whether you call it, speaking to every single vendor that you've currently got on your bigs, there must be some proactivity around your day. But it's delusional to think that the rest of the day, you don't need to be intuitive and adapt and evolve to what the circumstances are, which could be offers, complaints, listings, sales, and deal support with other team members.
Yeah. And then I guess that does flow on, Adrian, directly to our second point that we're going to mention today is energy. And knowing what energy to bring throughout the day when you do have to be really productive, and there's other times where you can be a little bit more reserved, knowing what energy to bring into that circumstance and situation actually is key to the success. Because let's face it, a lot of real estate agents right now, they're working harder than they ever have. They're pitching on business. They're probably pitching 2 to 3 times. They may have buyers that they're taking through on smaller increments. So private appointments are on the rise, and those private appointments need to be done 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 appointments back to back, especially in certain areas right now. I don't think that's going to change anyway when restrictions get eased. I think the power of private appointments, the power that buyers get to really place themselves in the property is important, but it can be taxing on your energy. Because if you're doing 15 appointments at the same time, right, back to back to back to back to back to back over a space of an hour, you have to be up for that 15-minute appointment. You have to be making sure that you're selling the benefits of the property. You have to make sure you're leaving a good impression on the buyer, so you're building trust. All of these things are a layered effect and can really be draining. And so the agents that I've been speaking to about their energy levels over recent months, they have been more tired and more lethargic in regards to work-life balance because of the activities that they're doing. They're spending a lot more time doing those activities. So my question to you then, or in a roundabout way, is, Adrian, over your career, how have you balanced that? Because I know you've been a big advocate of balance and, you know, the work and life, let's get rid of those two words. Let's just focus on balance. You've been balanced, but you've also brought the right energy at the right time to get the right result. I'd love to know how you've done that.
Yeah, and you're right in stating that the work-life balance is a misnomer in that, you know, they don't really exist in the same sentence. You know, we often, you know, in our training, Troy, as you know, replace that with work-life harmony. How do you make them harmonious? That's the key part about it, because real estate, it ain't a 9-to-5 gig, as you and I know. Real estate ain't a Monday to Friday gig, as you know. There's no RDOs. It just doesn't work like that, right? So you've chosen to plug into a lifestyle, and there's some agents who are really, really astute around not only creating harmony with work and life, but actually using their personal life as an amazing platform to build their business, i.e. functions, parent events, kids sports. Guess what? They're all buyers and sellers, right? So don't hide from any of that stuff. In fact, you know, we're not even trying to be tricky about it. We're not even trying to be authentic about it. We're just saying, well, this is my life. This is there's a harmony that's created here, and why should I discriminate between my personal life and my business life? So I suppose to answer your question, Troy, and I'm also hearing, you know, on the ground from agents that are complaining. They're unhappy with the fact that, you know, they're doing private appointments. Some are doing 10-minute slots, some are doing 15-minute slots. And, you know, I think 10-minute slots for apartments is appropriate. 15 minutes for houses is appropriate, right? Now, what we've got to remember, Troy, is agents, you know, only a year ago were flat out maintaining the 9:30 a.m. energy for the first open house to the 3 o'clock open house at the end of the day, right? Now, you know, you might as well, you know, quadruple, if not 10x that in terms of the energy that you need. So I don't think it's going to serve anyone to complain about it. You know, you've got to have a useful belief, to use, you know, Chris Helder terminology, to say, this is what current reality looks like. There's a silver lining in it, in that we are qualifying buyers better, in that it's much better of a consumer experience. There's not one buyer that if you interviewed them today and said, what did you prefer, open houses or do you prefer private viewings? I'm telling you now, if you interview 100 of them, they'll tell you these private viewings are absolutely brilliant. I love them, right? So there's a silver lining there, and we're getting offers, and we're qualifying people, and we're giving more direct feedback to vendors, and like they're all useful beliefs that we've got no other choice to adopt. Otherwise, we're going to be caught going down that rabbit hole of, oh man, I just don't have the energy. You know, I can't believe I have to show people, you know, half an hour open house is turning into 2 hours. Deal with it. You know, there's people that, you know, in other parts of the world at the moment, you've only got to turn on the news for 5 minutes and you'll see other people in other parts of the world that are in much worse positions, right? We're in an industry that's still mobilized. We're an industry that is not incapacitated. We're an industry with, I would say, not even one arm tied behind our back. We've probably got 3 fingers of one arm tied behind our back. We're seeing beautiful property. We're dealing in a market that's absolutely booming, and we're dealing with more sensible and realistic vendors and sellers. So I think, you know, it sounds very easy for me to say, but I don't pontificate from an ivory tower either, Troy. I'm actually in the field on a Saturday doing these 10-minute slots as well, right? So, and I'm just doubling down, and I'm just got high energy every single time. But it doesn't just happen by default. You know, I'm waking up, doing my morning ritual, taking my supplements. Everything that I need to do in order to have that energy all day, every day, with every single client, because every single buyer and every single seller deserves a 10 out of 10. Anything less than that, you might as well stay home, and go down the tracksuit slope. But that's not going to be me. I'm not going to fall for that. You're not going to fall for it, Troy, and hopefully our listeners won't fall for it, because there is a choice. You're either going to be in the excuse column and be a victim to the current circumstances, or you can be in that results column, and there's always a way to find a pathway towards achieving what you want to achieve if you really put your mind to it.
Yeah, and I guess, Adrian, that then flows on to the final part of today's episode, where we talk about mindset and focus. And I'd love to get your thoughts on what agents should be focused on right now. You mentioned, you're doubling down on the appointments, and they're 10 minutes for apartments, 15 minutes for houses. I think if you put a time frame around that to the listeners, that's fantastic. I would then love to know, what else are you focused on around your mindset to actually achieve some great results, but make sure that you are still balanced. And I come back to that word because I really think right now, given the time of year, given the activity spike that we hopefully will see as soon as some of the restrictions are released, I'd really love to know about what you're focused on now to set you up for success there.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, Troy, is if you do have a team, to create alignment, communication, and anchoring on a daily basis. Now, if you don't have a team, do it with yourself. Align yourself, anchor yourself. So someone asked me the other day in a coaching session, Troy, they said, okay, if you move to Port Macquarie, Adrian Bowe, what's the first, what's 10 things that you would do? And I said, to be honest, number one, which might surprise you, is I would be 100% aligned and anchored with my highest and best use, and be on 100% purpose, and decide this is what I want to be doing at this stage in my life, and be all in and burn the boats. Literally burn the boats. So there's no going back, right? And then I obviously went into, increasing my product knowledge, and obviously building a database, et cetera, right? So they were a bit surprised by the very first thing that I would do, which goes back to everything we're talking about, headspace, mindset, and energy, right? Because unless you do burn the boats and you've got no plan B, then you're gonna creep into complacency. So alignment with your team is critical, because or with yourself, because if you don't have a team, then you are a team within yourself, given that some part of the day you're the administrative assistant, the other part of the day you're the negotiator and lead agent, and the other part of the day you're sales support, which is associate agent in terms of callbacks, buyer work. So you've got those three sub-personalities happening on a daily basis, symbiotically, if you're a standalone agent. But if you've got a team, there's and you're not face to face like we normally are, then I would say minimum twice daily Zoom calls, touching base. How are you feeling? What are you doing? What's the objective of the day? What's the theme of the day? What are the call to actions from yesterday? Can we look at two things: meetings and activities in the last 24 hours? Right, let's run through them. Okay, I did 2 hours of prospecting, I had a buyer appointment, and then I did a market appraisal. Right, what are the objectives and the call to actions and the outcomes from each of those meetings and activities? So and then you repeat that every single day, and then you look at the day ahead. If you're meeting in the morning, and say, what are the meetings and activities I've got today? And instead of looking for call to actions, or instead of looking at outcomes, what you're looking for those particular meetings and activities is preparation. What's the preparation I need to do to get my headspace right, to get my visuals right, to get the comparable or relevant sales right, to get a listing proposal done? So I think that's critical, because too many agents, unfortunately, Troy, 95% reactive, not 80% reactive. And, they're literally doing everything at the last minute, arriving, 30 seconds late, a little bit disorganized with paperwork, etc. That's just not going to cut it, in this low volume market, where you need to be absolutely on your A game. Anything less than a 10 out of 10, unacceptable.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think the lessons that we've discussed here today really can be a blueprint to success for everyone listening. You break it down into those three areas. I'd actually be recommending right now, how do you rate yourself 1 to 10 in Headspace? How are you rating your energy throughout the day, 1 to 10? And then also, how do you rate your focus or your mindset in that final part? I think, Adrian, that would be a really clear indicator for the team members that are listening to this to say, well, you know what? My Headspace is great. I'm really positive because I'm getting great results, but there's not enough stock. So I'm kind of a 7 there, but my energy, I'm just burnt out. I'm like a 2. Right. So let's focus on what you're really lowly rated on, and then let's see if we can get that up to a 5 or 6 quite quickly. Because if you have that balance throughout, you will be able to achieve some great things. And the reality is, we've seen this in Victoria, we've seen this throughout every area around the world that's had restrictions eased. There will be a spike in activity, in volume, in buyer inquiry, all of those things as soon as the restrictions have left. Like Adrian said, we are still mobile as a business. We are still mobile as an industry. It's really important for us not to lose sight of what we've achieved over the last couple of months, but really scaling up and getting to a point that you're hitting the ground running as soon as these things change, Adrian.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the people that not only survive, but are actually thriving during this time, are absolutely going to shoot the lights out, because there are unfortunately agents that have taken their foot off the pedal. I mean, I understand for maybe a 2-week period. I mean, I even did it, to be honest, Troy. I thought to myself, when lockdown first happened, I thought, you know what, I'd normally be on holidays anyway, you know, so for a week, it's not like I went down to 150% productivity to 0, but you know, I went down to probably 60% just for a week, just because I sensed that the head was talking to the body, and we just needed to slow the pace down a little bit, and that was fine. Never feel guilty about anything like that. But when you're on, you need to be on. And let me tell you, there's going to be an avalanche of activity after this lockdown or COVID, whatever you want to call it. And the agents that are front of mind and of top of mind and have high awareness and really good profile are the agents that are going to dominate the market, dominate the listings, and therefore dominate sales.
Yeah, perfect. All right, team. Well, that's it for another episode. Adrian, quick one today, only 20 minutes, but I want to thank you again for taking the time and really breaking down those areas. As always, team, please continue to send through those questions. We love seeing them, and we love writing back and making sure that we answer the questions live when we can. Next week, Adrian, we might take a couple of questions because I know we still have a backlog.
Yeah.
We did tackle Karen and Steve's last week, which was, I think, really well received. The numbers of viewers and feedback to you directly was fantastic. So thanks again to Karen and Steve for sending that through. Until next week, listeners, thank you for joining us. Adrian, as always, I'll no doubt speak to you a million times between now and next week.
Absolutely. Thanks, listeners. Thanks, Troy.